We thank him very much for what he is doing for this country, especially the agriculture sector.
On the news tonight, President Buhari appraises Nigeria's agricultural reform policies.
Adequate patrol has been put in place to ensure that there is no threat to the peace in Osun State.
Ahead of Osun governorship election, heads of security agencies meet, vow to deal with electoral offenders. Also tonight, court upholds INEC's July 31 deadline for the suspension of the continuous voter registration. Hello and thanks for joining us on the network news on NTA. I am Elizabeth Omori. Adiola Komi Akere joins us from Lagos. And don't forget, you can join this news broadcast live on our website nta.ng/live, as well as other social media platforms for authentic updates. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed the conviction that his administration's agricultural reform policies are working for the good and applauded the nation's farming populace for the available record of production of rice and other food commodities. The president stated this in Daura while granting audience to the elected local government chairman in Katsina State, who paid him salah homage. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The agricultural reform policies instituted to make Nigeria food secure, President Buhari said, is not only achieving the desired objectives but also enhancing the good image of the country abroad. Nigerians, he said, are now growing what they eat and indeed eating what they grow. He enumerated the massive response to the clarion call to Nigerians to embrace farming, the supportive agricultural intervention programs, and the closure of the land borders of the country for almost 2 years as factors responsible for the success story. The president, who described farmers as the driving force of the rural economy, commended their tenacity and persistence in making the policies work for the nation. President Buhari also played up the successful implementation of the Treasury single account, saying money saved from unscrupulous government officials would have found its way to the numerous mysterious accounts. Katsina State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Yawo Umar Gojogojo, led the council chairman on the visit. He commended the president for initiating several measures to transform agriculture in order to achieve food sufficiency and security, as well as increase farmers' income during the last 7 years.
We thank him very much for what he is doing for this country, especially the agriculture sector. People are very, very happy with this program. Before he came as a head of state, if you come to Katsina State, only 3 local governments are farming rice, and there is no single rice mill. But here in Katsina, we are about more than 100 for rice mill, and more than 34 local governments they are into rice farming. So we asked him that before he leaves for office, to make a law that back this policy, because people are very, very happy.
On the challenges of security, the Commissioner expressed optimism that with the steps taken so far by both the federal and Katsina State governments, banditry, kidnapping for ransom and insurgency will not be handed over to the next government. From Daura, Katsina State, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
On electoral matters, the presidency wishes to advise well-meaning Nigerians to ignore a report by an apparently pirate online newspaper seeking to sow division and chaos on the choice of Governor Kashim Shettima as the running mate of our party's presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, states that the so-called newspaper is like a deadly virus. The statement wants Nigerians to stay safe by keeping away from toxic reports. Ahead of Osun governorship election, the Niger Police Force has vowed to deal decisively with any electoral offender during the conduct of the governorship election. The Deputy Inspector General of Police, who is coordinating the Osun election, Johnson Babatunde Kokumo, stated this at a joint meeting with heads of security agencies, NGOs, and frontline observers. Shegun Laoli reports.
Understandable at a period like this to have a heavy presence of security personnel in nooks and crannies of Osun State, where elections are to take place on Saturday. A series of engagement with critical stakeholders continue by the police. It has therefore become expedient for the top hierarchy of the police to hold meetings with such critical stakeholders, including civil society organizations, local and foreign observers, sister security agencies, and the media on the rules of engagement and the general conduct, all geared towards a smooth and successful election.
In synergy with other services, particularly the military, we are having the outer ring of personnel to ward off criminal elements from making incursion into Osun State from neighboring states. The inner rings of stop and search will involve other services, the police and other law enforcement agencies. Adequate patrol has been put in place to ensure that there is no threat to the peace in Osun State.
DIG Kokumo also warned the electorate against selling their votes on election day.
We will leave no stone unturned to ensure that those who are involved in buying and selling of votes are brought to book. We will stop at nothing to fish them out wherever they are, arrest them and process them through the courts.
21,000 police personnel have been deployed for the election, with the DIG as a coordinator and other top high-ranking officers. In Osogbo, Shegun Lawole.
Still on Osun governorship election, the Center for Democracy and Development is urging the electorate and other citizens to stand up against any form of Electoral Act violation that could mar the outcome of Osun governorship election slated for this Saturday, 16th of July. The center at a media conference in Abuja raised concerns on the need for credible elections in Nigeria. Kenneth Nanim reports.
Center for Democracy and Development, an independent election monitoring group, is also set for the second off-cycle election this year, with the July 16 Osun governorship polls. Here, the group is commending INEC for the introduction of ICT in the conduct of Ekiti governorship election last month and urges improvement during Saturday's exercise in Osun.
It is very important for INEC to build on the progress made in Ekiti and address any other challenges with its operations.
The center is also urging stakeholders to avoid vote buying, violence, spread of fake news, unguided utterances before, during and after the polls.
It is not something that we can leave to the public authorities alone to solve. All of us have a civic duty to take conscious efforts to prevent and discourage it.
The CDD-ECA is hosting a fake news hub for the purpose of tracking and countering fake news and misinformation about the election. It is hoped that the recent signing of the peace accord by the governorship candidates will ensure that their supporters refrain from violent activities regardless of the result of the polls.
Center for Democracy and Development also wants relevant stakeholders to play complementary roles to ensure an electoral outcome that will be generally accepted as free and fair. Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
Still on electoral matters, the People's Redemption Party has withdrawn from Saturday's Osun governorship election. This was confirmed by the party's National Executive Committee during its meeting, where concerns were raised about the negative effects of obvious inactivity of the governorship candidate of the party in Osun State, Mr. Ayowole Olubusui Adedeji. A statement by the National Secretary of the party notes that both the party structures in Osun State and at the national level have considered all options before withdrawing from the election. The statement adds that a 5-man disciplinary committee has been set up to investigate the governorship candidate of the party, Mr. Ayowole Olubusoye Adedeji, for staying abroad since his emergence as the governorship candidate of the party that led to the party's inability to campaign until 2 weeks to the election, thereby jeopardizing efforts of creating awareness. The committee is expected to investigate the alleged overseas fundraising of the Osun governorship election without corresponding campaigns in the name of the party at state level. Meanwhile, INEC says it will investigate a video training online of permanent voter cards allegedly buried underground in some locations, including the compound of a high-profile person. The Commission, in a statement by its National Commissioner for Information, Festus Okoye, says it will not take these allegations lightly, and anyone found culpable in this diabolical scheme will be sanctioned under the law. The statement further notes that PVCs have been printed for all valid registrants in Nigeria up to 14th of January 2023 and delivered to all the states of the Federation for collection by voters. However, the Commission appeals to those who found the allegedly buried PVCs to deliver them to the nearest state or local government office of the Commission. INEC has also announced 31st of July 2022 as the deadline for the suspension of the continuous voter registration exercise. This followed the judgment delivered by the Federal High Court on Wednesday, 13th of July 2022, in which it dismissed the suit filed by the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, which is seeking an extension of the exercise beyond 30th of June 2022. The court has affirmed that INEC is at liberty to appoint a date of its choice to suspend the CVR, provided it is not later than 90 days before the date fixed for the general elections. INEC has also extended the exercise to include weekends from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. It is no longer news that the Independent National Electoral Commission extended its voter registration exercise indefinitely. But how are Nigerians utilizing this window to ensure they do not lose their rights? Ifoma Ojinta brings us situation report of the FCT.
A couple of weeks ago, this INEC office was besieged by a crowd of prospective registrants who are trying to beat the 30th June deadline to collect their permanent voter cards ahead of the 2023 general elections. Now, how has the continuous voter registration exercise been going after the extension, and how has the additional centers helped to reduce the crowd at some of these centers? Let's find out. We are here at one of the newly created centers by INEC, and on arriving here we didn't find any INEC official, but we saw some people who are prospective registrants who want to obtain their permanent voter cards.
We are here since morning, so we are here yesterday, but it was a big disappointment that when we were here there were no staffs on board to attend to us.
This morning we have been here and they asked us to come back on Monday, that their madam is not around.
However, the situation is different at the Wuse Registration Center. We have the crowd of prospective registrants at the gate, while the continuous voter registration exercise is going on.
The exercise has been good so far, because if you look at the crowd outside and the effort they've been putting in place, I think they are trying.
We are ready to get our voters card. We are going to wait here, no matter the situation we find ourselves.
Reacting to the issue at the Diplomat Garden Area 1 Registration Center, the head of Department Voter Education and Publicity, INEC FCT, says it is due to some logistic problems which they hope to take care of by Monday. In Abuja, Ifoma Ojinta, NTA News.
Thank you, Ifoma, for the update. Now, the presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, has announced Bishop Isaac Idahosa as his running mate. A statement via the official Twitter handle of the party indicates that the Lagos-based vice presidential candidate will be formally introduced on Monday, 18th of July at the International Conference Center, Abuja, Bishop Idausa, the presiding bishop and senior pastor of the God First Ministry Lekki Light Center, Aja, hails from Edo State. The 57-year-old automobile engineer who trained in the Kaduna Polytechnic also has master's and doctorate degrees in theology. And it's time to take a breather. More reports after the break. To stay with us. You're watching the network news on NTA. Now to economic matters. To ensure increase in revenue mobilization through tax on profit from sale of stocks and other non-inventory assets, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has reached an agreement to work closely with the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers of Nigeria. The partnership was sealed during a visit to the FIRS headquarters in Abuja. Benny Adams reports.
Nigeria's capital market is adjudged the fastest growing economic venture in Africa, with securities and investment increasing in volume and value. And for the FIRS, where there is growth, there is tax to be collected. This meeting is therefore beneficial for both parties.
The market itself has changed. It has changed structurally. It has changed with regard to technology. So implementing the provisions may be a bit challenging because determining even the cost, which is the basis of determining the gain, will be a bit technical, and the need for us to be able to shape the implementation so that it will be seamless and it will not be a matter of pains for the operators in the market.
While the stockbrokers advocate the utilization of capital gains tax on stocks, bonds, precious metals, and real estate in the newly introduced Finance Act, the FIRS is open to anything that will ramp up revenue lost from oil theft, payment of subsidy, and low production of crude.
Service expect corresponding increase in revenue from the capital market for the local government, the state and the center to be able to provide critical infrastructure that are currently lacking, to be able to provide social amenities to the citizens, and to be able to pay for security and safety of our citizens.
The FIRS pledged to support the Institute achieve its mandate and the success of its forthcoming 26th Annual Stockbrokers Conference. In Abuja, Benny Adams, NTA News.
In Nigeria's consumer inflation has increased by 18.6% in June 2022, as released in latest figures by the National Bureau of Statistics. It is the highest figure in 5 years. Moplan Darkok reports on Nigeria's inflation figures and the global inflation trend, which have been attributed to higher cost of energy and general increase in the cost of production.
Cost of food items and other essential commodities have been top worry for countries across the world, worsened by the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Food prices are up already 37% year over year. There's been a shift in relative prices with food up more than CPI. That's significant because it measures how much it hits the poor. They have to spend more on food.
A 2021 report by the World Bank listed Nigeria amongst the top 10 countries in the world with very high inflation rates. This Friday, the National Bureau of Statistics published the data for June 2022, which shows that inflation rose to 18.6% on a year-on-year basis, 0.84 percent points higher than the rate recorded in June 2021, which was 17.75%. But Nigeria is not the only country battling this monster. In Africa, countries like Sudan, Zimbabwe, and Ethiopia topped the inflation list. At 9.1%, US and UK inflation numbers are presently at 4 decades high, while Turkey, Lebanon, and Argentina are among countries with highest inflation outside of Africa. Gasoline, food, energy, and housing have been identified as biggest drivers of inflation across the world.
So the causes are downrooted, but Ukraine-Russian war trigger off the entire thing, and of course for strategic reasons of those two countries, for agric and for energy.
And I think for us, we should not shy away from the issue of good policies mean better lives of people.
Reports say inflation rates have doubled in 37 of 44 advanced economies over the past 2 years. But there are exceptions, as Indonesia, Saudi Arabia and Japan have been the least hit by the inflation jitters. In Abuja, Muplang Dakok, NTA News.
And to speak more on the global inflation report, I have with me in the studio Paul Alaji, an economist. Mr. Alaji, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you so very much for having me.
All right, U.S. inflation for June 2022 came in high, 9.1, Nigeria 18.6. This is quite high. What is happening to global inflation trends?
Well, I think the globe is still yet to recover from the impact of COVID. Okay. And after COVID, we saw the Russian-Ukraine war, two major producers around the world. And even though they are both in Eastern Europe, their impact is highly felt in Africa and in the rest of the world. For instance, most of the gas consumed in Germany come from Russia. So there is no way we can disconnect ourselves. The time for disconnection is too short. And we have also seen how the global giant has responded to Russia by trying to excommunicate Russian economy from the rest of the world. It had implication, and we are all paying for it. For instance, significant proportion of import of wheat into Africa, especially Nigeria, come from that part of the world. And because it's not there, scarcity, of course, will come on board. We have our local issues, no doubt, but when it comes to global arena, because of exogenous factors that we cannot control, they continue to have impact on inflation. And it's not just Nigeria, it affects virtually everyone. But the most significant one for Africa, and more importantly for Nigeria, is cost of energy. The two of us are in this studio today, and those that are watching us around the world are here because of energy. Energy as human. Now, in our homes, what was the cost of energy 2 years ago? For gas, what was the cost of energy in the factory? Because cost of energy increases, then cost of production certainly would increase, and that is why you are seeing high inflation all around the world, especially in our country.
All right, US, Russia and other developed countries are actually having it tough with this increase. What is this in it for Nigeria, and how are these numbers affecting us?
Well, the numbers are affecting us, first of all, because Nigeria economy is highly dependent. We have crude oil in large supply in terms of what is beneath our feet, but one way or the other, we've not been able to refine using our brains to convert the natural resources to what we can put directly in our vehicle. We have to export, and when we import, if any issue happens to the economy that we're exporting to, we're going to be importing inflation from those countries back to our country. And when you look at the report from National Bureau of Statistics, one of the components responsible for high collection or high consumption of our foreign exchange is the import of crude oil. Import of refined oil, I beg your pardon. We make a lot from crude oil on one hand, we give it away in the other hand. So when there are issues happening around energy, because our economy is not completely independent, it's still dependent largely because we consume a lot from around the world. So there are large impact on us. What is the implication on Nigeria economy, or what is implication? Is we are already seeing cost push inflation, because how much was diesel in January and December is about 300. Today the price of diesel is over 800 per liter. So the impact is tremendous. You are going to see it in the cost of rice. For those, thank God central bank has made policy regarding to boost grain, within the country. If not, bag of rice should have been 45,000-50,000 naira. But because you have grain supply, which is relatively steady, what you have to deal with is the cost of transport from maybe Kebbi or Adamawa to anywhere they are producing on one hand, and the cost of energizing your factory, which is another major factor. So energy is a big conversation apart from the traditional concerns that we have in security. But what seems to be different from what we have had, what drove inflation back, it went back to 13-12%. Now it's back in 18%. And 5 years, the highest in the last 5 years, apart from what we had around 2017, I think 18.71%. This is now the highest to that in recent time.
9.1 high, 18.6 very high as well. If we consider these peculiarities, what should be the way out?
a lot of things should be the way out. Number one, we need to do something about the currency naira.
Okay.
I think our government needs to do fight from all sides, and this will not just be what central bank is doing. We see central bank started increasing interest rate in the monetary policy committee, but this goes beyond demand pull. We are now having cost push, so government needs to do something. We have 4 refineries. We have been trying to turn them around. They are not responding. How do we bring private sector to partner with government? Maybe government maybe 50% or 60% to private sector, so that private sector, we want to make profits, but in making profit you must have output. As we speak, we are having zero output from 4 refineries, 1 in Kaduna, remaining 3 in Niger Delta. We need to have output so that we can reduce our import. The exchange rate will be, we have some level of, we have leverage in that regard. Again, for imports, it will not also be that anytime we are not able to import as at when the subsidy conversation, subsidy may go up about 4 trillion naira from 8 trillion naira will generating revenue. The remaining 4 trillion, significant part will go in service debt. So we have a lot of issues. And when president is saying that Nigeria concerns is beyond politics, he knew what he's talking about. Economy is not stupid, and it's a real conversation we need to talk about. So we need to find ways to also redominate naira. I think the value of naira is more or less becoming embarrassing at over 400 naira. This last quarter has been the quarter where naira devalued the most. And you go to parallel market, not even 600, 615. If we redominate, everybody that has naira may be practicing, waiting for election. So they have to bring the money out because they will not be valued anymore. Right. And I believe the president can do it.
Mr. Paul, we'll have better, longer platforms to talk about this, but I want to thank you so much for coming on the news. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. You're still watching the Network News. Let's take a break. More reports ahead. Just stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. The House of Representatives Committee on Reformatory Institutions has resolved to invite the Minister of Interior, the Comptroller General and Controller Nigerian Correctional Service FCT Command to the National Assembly over attack on the facility for possible areas for legislative intervention. Chairman of the committee, Edwin Anayo, made this known when he led members to the attacked facility. John Yaku reports.
It is another visit to the Kuje Custodial Center by the Nigerian legislators. This time, it is members of the House of Representatives Committee on Reformatory Institutions that are on fact-finding mission.
If they can come here, spend those hours, no any attack, no counter-attack, and spend those 2 hours, know what they want, and they got what they want.
But military, we are withdrawn another few days, few hours before this is.
The Comptroller Kuje Custodial Center dispelled the notion that the military was withdrawn shortly before the attack.
Platoon consisted of 30 soldiers with 1 commanding officer. That's that. They are permanently stationed here for a period of 1 month. We change them after each 1 month. Yes. So I think at the new they changed but they were around.
The committee therefore resolved to invite the relevant stakeholders to the National Assembly to interact and find solutions to incessant jailbreaks in the country.
We are not comfortable with the incidents of jailbreaks this recent time. It's almost about 10 to 12. It's actually 15.
The date for the meeting is to be communicated to all concerned parties soon. In Abuja, John Yakub, NTA News.
The National Industrial Court sitting in Abuja has ordered the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission to upwardly review the salaries and allowances of judicial officers in the country with immediate effect, delivering the judgment in a suit seeking to increase the salaries and allowances of judicial officers filed by Sebastian Justice Osatoawin Obaseki Osai held that given the current socio-economic realities, both locally and globally, the salaries of judicial officers are not only low, but embarrassing. The cut pegged from 10 million naira to 7 million naira as monthly salaries for different levels of judicial officers in the country. The court held that the failure of concerned authorities to review the salaries of judicial officers since 2008 is unconstitutional and therefore ordered the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the third defendant in the matter, to ensure that the judgment is enforced.
and it should be implemented. The judge has said, and may God bless this judge, the judge has said that from now on, in every year or every 2 years at least, a salary should be reviewed. Why not?
Today is a watershed. Today is the hallmark of a new dawn in the justice sector of this country. I believe that this fight is not personal. This fight is for everybody in Nigeria.
And for more reports on the news, let's join Adeola in Lagos. Hello, Adeola.
Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome to Lagos. Bringing to the consciousness of users the rights of intellectual property owners and making them pay is all that is needed to grow the sector and better the lives of intellectual property owners. Annie Daniels reports that this was buttressed at the Nigerian Copyright Commission and stakeholders meeting in Lagos.
The highly interactive meeting was a platform for concerned parties to air out their views and grievances.
We don't have what we call pension. You know, when you say you put in 40 years, 30 years, and then you have to know your pension is your right, your work.
Intellectual property owners here revealed that Nigerian entertainment industry is known world over and appreciated. Yet, on the list of Africa's best entertainment countries, only South Africa, Morocco and Cote d'Ivoire are mentioned. More disheartening, they say, is that even at the home front, users of rights materials from broadcast industries to show up their businesses do so without paying compensation to owners.
This person is coming, that person is coming. Why don't we have just one person? They are paying, they will now know how to manage the other CMOs.
I can tell you that every Saturday in this country, somewhere, maybe a DJ, maybe some band somewhere, they are playing Oruka. But am I getting truly compensated for that? No.
And by right, if you play someone's music, you're supposed to pay for it. But what's going on? People play them all over, and the artists themselves are languishing in poverty.
We are expecting what I call a brand new modern copyright legislation. It's passed through the Senate. It's at the House of Representatives at the moment. It's had the second reading, so we are almost there.
The consensus here is that there should be a synergy between rights owners and users because the copyright system must work for everyone. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
The Nigerian Customs Service Kirikiri Lighter Terminal Area Command is utilizing risk management techniques to detect instances of non-compliance with import and export extant laws with the view of blocking all revenue loopholes. This method is, however, paying off as the command raised its revenue profile by 38% when compared to its half-year performance in 2021. Michael Olaleye reports that crucial among seizures is the interception of 2 containers.
The intention of the importer of these 2x40 food containers is to deceive customs officers and other regulatory agencies at the ports. Apart from falsely declaring the content of one as non-woven paper filters, they were imported without necessary approval. Physical examination revealed 1,447 packages of mosquito coils with branded papers meant for distribution. The Kirikiri Lighter Terminal Area Command of the Nigerian Customs Service said importation of mosquito coils do not just contravene number 17 Schedule 3 of Common External Tariff, but equally proving to be dangerous to human health.
Investigation is ongoing. We have detained the agent concerned. We are going after the importer.
The Senko container was found to be loaded with 795 packages of footwears, but declared as water taps closets in a bid to evade duty. The duty paid value on the 2 containers intercepted was put at more than 271 million naira. The Media Performance Index of the Kirikiri Lighter Terminal Area Command shows a significant growth.
The command has recorded monthly upsurge in its revenue generation efforts, aggregating to a total sum of 23.6 billion naira.
surpassing the 14.6 billion collected in the same period of the year 2021.
Not resting on this achievement, the command promised to increase the level of compliance while facilitating legitimate trade. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NTA News.
That's a contribution here. Don't forget to follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live and on our other social media handles displayed on your screen for updates. The network news will continue after this time out. Don't go away.
Thanks for staying with the NTA. The Inspector General of Police, Al-Khalid Baba Usman, says evolving contemporary ways of financial transaction towards strengthening services of the police force and welfare of personnel is in line with global best practices in any security organization. The IGP was speaking at the official inauguration of Nigeria Police Force Microfinance Bank in Maiduguri, where the Borno State Governor, Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, offered housing and 110 million naira to the Nigeria force. Abubakar Musa reports.
The Nigerian police force has over the years remained resolute in ensuring the provision of better welfare for its workforce for a more robust and sustained output. The inauguration of this microfinance bank, with over 50 branches spread across Nigeria, a brainchild of the Inspector General of Police, is to further bring the community closer to the police for proper financial management in line with global trend.
We feel we will provide service with little interest. We will also provide service efficiently and effectively.
Commending the Nigerian police force for citing the microfinance bank in Maiduguri, Governor Babagana Umara announced the state government's allocation of houses to police personnel, as well as 105 million naira financial support, with a breakdown of how the money will be used among families of deceased officers, women police officers, among other issues, which is expected to remain in the coffers of the bank.
The essence of establishing the microfinance bank is to ensure that financial services are provided to members of the police force, so that they can earn their means of livelihood.
The event also featured a series of presentations from historical background of Nigerian Police Force Microfinance Bank and demonstration of e-channel system of operation, as well as achievements recorded so far by the board chairman, managing director, and other stakeholders within the financial organization. In Maiduguri, Abubakar Musa, NTA News.
More than 17 years of relative peace enjoyed in Liberia is attributed to the sacrifice of Nigerian military who fought rebels to a standstill. The Chief of Staff, Liberian Armed Forces Major General Charles Johnson, stated this while on a working visit to the defense headquarters in Nigeria. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has more.
For 14 years, civil war ravaged Liberia, leading to the displacement and deaths of thousands of people, with property worth billions destroyed. Through the ECOMOG Regional Force, Nigerian military restored law and order. The Liberian Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces is in defense headquarters to seek further support in the ongoing development of the nation's military.
I will tell you today we have 17 years of relative peace because of the sacrifices the men and women from Nigeria have posed into Liberia, that today we are what we are.
At the Nigerian Army, Navy and Air Force headquarters, the service chiefs promised more training slots for the Liberian military personnel.
As part of West African region, which is also one of the main centers of Nigerian foreign policy in Africa, sub-region, region, and the rest, we are always willing to support and to provide support for our friendly African countries.
A Nigerian Army general led the reorganization of the Liberian military after the civil war between 1989 and 2003. From the defense headquarters in Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Marking this year's World Youth Skills Day, analysts want young people to take up vocational training in order to obtain skills for craftsmanship, which will help reduce the rate of unemployment. Olayin Kaujo reports that this is a theme is transforming skills for the future.
World Youth Skills Day is celebrated every year on July 15 to highlight the importance of equipping young people with skills for employment and entrepreneurship. 22-year-old Eddie Michael, for 5 years, has been learning how to repair cars at this mechanic workshop.
Since I dropped out from school, I say I cannot do business at this age, so I started learning work. My father pushed me to work, to learn. Say handwork is good. Handwork never lack.
Just like Eddie, many of the young people here dropped out of school at an early age due to poverty, and the work they do here is their only way to earn a living.
I don't have any regrets on learning this job because I'm benefiting from it. At least I've trained many boys through this job. And I've settled many boys through this job. Only those machineries. That's my challenges. There are new model cars that need machine to work on it. So if I get that money, I will buy some machines.
But nowadays, once they bring maybe a child to learn, stay 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month, you won't see the child again. The job is too stressful. It's when you are into it before you know that this job is good.
This dismantling and coupling may seem easy, but it requires a lot of technique and concentration. Technical and vocational skills can help reduce unemployment among young people.
If we focus a lot attention on technical vocational education, the skill set we'll have in this country and in Africa for that matter will be great enough to be able to reduce unemployment.
Today, government is working on bridging the gap of skills development in the country.
There's an exchange program between the youth in Portugal and the youth in Nigeria, but also to leverage on the areas of entrepreneurship, the area of startups, the area of ICT.
Panelists advocating more creation of incentives for young people who engage in skills development. Eddie says he wants to learn more and sharpen his skills with the hope of setting up his own business someday. Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
In other news, the 2022 National Festival of Arts and Culture, NAFEST, is to be hosted by the Lagos State Government. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu gave the assurance when he received a delegation from the National Council for Arts and Culture, led by the Director General, Segun Ushewe, on the level of preparedness of the state in the hosting of the festival. Governor Sanwo-Olu said the state government had to improve Onja facilities to meet all criteria set by the NCAC that would enable the state not only to host the biggest and most colorful festival, but also emerge the overall winner of the fiesta, as Lagos State will hold a pre-NAFEST event for 7 days, which is aimed at showcasing the rich cultural heritage of all the local government areas in the state, which will therefore herald the Eko NAFEST 2022. The Director General of NCAA, Segun Ushewe, reiterated that the festival, which grows richer, bigger and better with every edition, will provide a strong platform for Lagos State, which is the center of excellence, to bring its well-known finesse to bear in making the Eko NAFEST 2022 the best of its kind in history. Preparatory to the General Housing and National Headcount next year, communities across the nation are ready for the exercise with the support of the National Population Commission. Here's a compilation of states warming up for the 2022 trial census.
Olushola Komolafe in Ondo State reports that adequate measures have been put in place for the successful conduct of the ongoing trial census in the state.
We expect our people to respond very positively to this very sensitive exercise.
In Imo State, Obianuju Umuosu reports that 9 local government areas have been earmarked for the trial census.
People of Umuchuku, they are aware that we are coming, so they received us warmly and gave us all we needed.
The security is assured, everything is going on well.
Meanwhile, the National Population Commission in Kebbi State has commenced the trial census in 9 local government areas across the states.
We want to see our staff, their capacity, their level of education. Can they perform during the census? What about our tablet, the technology that we are going to use? Is that okay?
Similarly, in Oka, the trial census exercise was successful as residents lauded the initiative.
At the end, we expect that they do their work diligently, applying the skills they were taught.
Jude Abugu in Benin reports that the NPC enumerators are already gathering data.
Some persons are not willing to give us the needed information. They are so angry that, I don't know, but God helping us, we're able to get vital information from the enlightened ones.
The exercise has commenced in North Central Zone in Karo local government area of Nasarawa State with the distribution of materials to over 5,000 enumerators.
Whether you work in FCT or work anywhere but you reside in Karo, make yourselves available so you be counted, because this will reflect in amenities that be provided in the local government.
And that's the Network News. Thank you so much for your time. Do remember to always take action against rape and rapists. I'm Elizabeth Omori.